Welcome to the Freddie Kissoon Show. All I'm saying, next time, break the evidence. All you do, you come here, corruption.
How come
just here. Next time you come here, break your I am not talking about that. I'm talking about you in 2024, December, saying there's corruption. Bring it.
Let me ask you this question. I would like to ask the AG to propose legislation for what we call small claims court. There are lots of poor people, to an example you just gave, that they have issues with others and sometimes with large firms, but the lawyer fee is greater than the fee you're claiming.
It is their right. Unlike the right that someone has, all of our rights exist in context.
What's the context of a second medical opinion?
Because you're disrespecting the process.
No.
Jesus, this is common sense, man.
Any situation which you seem to do, you're just dealing with Afro-Guyanese issues. If one, you can't bring and pull the leaders of the African community together, you're failing them. And if two, you can't put forward a future, a blueprint, and a plan for African Guyanese, you're failing as well.
Hi, good evening, pleasant Wednesday evening to you, wherever you are, different time zones, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day. This is the Freddie Kissoon Show, and we are featuring the Leonard Craig Freddie Kissoon dialogue. By now you would know that Leonard and I exchange ideas and analysis and elaboration on what is going on in Guyana. We will be doing this quite often for the next 2 months because we're in an election campaign. We're coming to you from my backyard, and we're sitting down on one of my favorite tables. At the back is a construction going on in the railway embankment. They're widening the railway embankment to 4-lane. So once again, thanks for being with us. Leonard Craig is next to me. Let me start with something that happened outside the Georgetown Hospital on Tuesday morning. Some kids in my yard were playing frisbee, and the frisbee struck my wife in her left eye. So I took her to the Georgetown Hospital. When we were outside the hospital on the pavement in New Market Street, 4 guys came up to me, and the first one said, "Man, Freddie, you switch." And so the conversation followed that I switched political allegiance, or I switched my politics. And there were 3 Africans and 1 Indian. And the first Indian said, "Freddie, you switch. Freddie, you know, it's the PPP government knocked you off from UG." And then the conversation flowed. And I said to him, yes, it was the PPP government that knocked me off from UG. But after 2015, when the new government got in, did I go back to UG? You have a new government. You knew me. You calling me Freddie. You tell me I switch. But I didn't switch in 2015. The formation I supported got into government. Was I facilitated back to UG, and they shut their mouth. And a whole set of conversations followed back and forth, and they understood. One of them was saying, "You hear the man, listen to the man." But we had to leave because my wife had a bandage in her left eye, and she was in discomfort. But what's the point before Leonard Craig comes in? The point is, when you explain to these people how the PNC, the AFC, Nigerian News, and all of them failed them and failed Freddie Kissoon, they understand. You have to explain to them. Those people came up and swarmed me, and when I was explaining to them what happened to Freddie Kissoon, I said to all of them, "You know me, you're saying I switched, so you know which side of the fence I was on. So what happened to me after 2015? And those people understood. Some of them were saying, yeah, telling each other, yeah, listen to what the man was saying. So you have to explain politics to people, and when you do, you hope in this election season that they will not vote for these jagabats, these betrayers. They will vote the right way. And for me, the right way is often Ali. Over to Leonard.
Just an extension of your topic, because I get a similar thing when I walk the streets, and you know, friends that I meet up and so on. And in those exchanges, there are a lot that you can tell people, a lot of explanation you can give that you cannot give on camera, because there are several things. You sometimes don't want to air, you know, you're part of an organization, which I was different from Freddie in that respect. I was part of an organization. Freddie was just a supporter on the outside. And you cannot on camera talk about a lot of things that happen inside the bosom of the organization. But when you're one-on-one with people, you can break down certain aspects. They can ask you questions directly, and you can speak to them. And I am telling you, when I talk to people, people understand some of the nitty-gritty with respect to why would somebody make a decision like that. And it has to be a reason. I consider myself reasonably intelligent. And I don't make decisions on a whim. I give thought to my decision. For example, at the time of resigning from the AFC, I had given the AFC 15 years, Freddie. 15 years.
15 years of your
And
life.
in those 15 years, the PPP was in government for 10 years. And I believe if I was an opportunist, as some people have called me on Facebook and other places, I would have gone with the PPP from the beginning. Why would I have gone with the AFC, not having any prospect at the time of getting into government? AFC was a starting party, but I saw something I could build. It wasn't about being in government or anything like it. It wasn't about that. It was about something that you saw, that was the symbolism that AFC had, and that you want. But then once AFC hit government, and the leaders formed themselves, based on my article this week on, the leadership formed themselves into a very, very tight leadership cabal, and never allowed that dream that you had at the AFC to fulfill, never allowed it to be fulfilled. And when you make the comparison, then you realize that what we're seeing now from the Irfan Ali administration, miles ahead of what the AFC portrayed when in government. And the choice for me was clear, and I made my decision very, very early, after seeing, you know, the direction.
Leonard is right. You can't say these things in social media, a podcast, a television program. You only have an hour. And that's why I have done several columns on it. And I wish I had the time. I would have spent endless hours with those guys outside the hospital Tuesday morning, but my wife was in discomfort, to explain to them. And the things you have to know about these people. Do you know when the AFC got into power in 2015? I spent 4 years with Nigel Hughes at the High Court. At that time, the Jack Doe libel trial was going on. And every month I'm with Nigel Hughes at the court. And one time some young people came in, and he introduced the young people. He said, come and meet a guy in ECO. Nigel Hughes at that time was the chairman of the AFC, the party, the second half of the government. You know, for those 4 years, I was with Nigel Hughes at that High Court. Nigel never once asked me, well, Freddie, you played your part, we're in government now. Is there any idea you have about anything? Not one word Nigel Hughes ever asked me. Do you know when the APNU+AFC won the government, Dominic Gaskin came up to me and said, thank you, Freddie. The press played its part. I never heard from Dominic Gaskin any time afterwards. Do you know Michael Carrington, at one of the management committee meeting of the AFC with everybody present, raised the question of two persons that the ombudsman said were wronged. A guy called Arjun from NBS and Freddie Kissoon from UG when I was dismissed. And he said, you know, should we compensate Freddie? Carrington told me they just moved on to the next item. I was a complete nobody. I got things thrown in my face. I got sued for libel. I got locked up in the Breakdown police station for 3 days on a traffic offense that carried $7,000 in fine. My wife got dismissed from Go Invest. I got dismissed from UG. Kaushik Satar, the only person in the history of Guyana, hung it down for property tax, and I had no property. And those people that played a big part in the AFC coming to power. So one night, David Patterson said to me, why are you writing about our government and you're not writing about Kwame McCoy that threw that thing on you? I said, oh, Kwame McCoy threw that thing on me. You know, the man who threw the thing on me died in mysterious circumstances. And you were part of the government, David, you never investigated it. David, anyone, if you ever come to the trial, did the government install a special prosecutor for what happened to Freddie Kissoon? I don't want to go on. These people are just horrible human beings. The APNU, the AFC, please do not give those people your votes. They are monsters not deserving to be part of modern civilization.
As I said when I started that Freddie is different from me, I wouldn't use those words, but Freddie is saying how he feels, and you have to understand how people feel and where they come from. Now, I want you to ask yourself why the PPP went into opposition in 2015 and the PPP did not suffer any of the huge, colossal breakaway that the PNC and the AFC is experiencing. Have you ever asked yourself why? And the PNC suffered its own breakaway and then turn around and start to eat its own partner. AFC is the partner in parliament, and they are turning around and eat out the AFC. All right? And that expresses something. Now, what I have in my hand here, I would probably publish this list by tomorrow or so. I'm trying to finalize some other names. What I have is a list of names since 2020. It's small, it's too fine, you won't be able to see it. But I'll publish it probably on my Facebook page or somewhere. But what I have here is a list of persons who left various parties from 2020. And I have PPP, PNC, AFC, and so on. And I also have a list of those persons who you don't know if they left, but they're just silent. Anybody have ever heard from Basil Williams recently? I have names like George Norton, Don Hastings, Carl Greenidge, Winston Jordan. Do we know where they are with respect to Joe Harmon? How do we know these people are? And never in the history of Guyana have we had a case where so many people who held such high office in government in the following election, or even just a year removed from the previous election, have gone so silent. People who reached the level of vice president and all of those levels have gone silent on the party for which they were a part of. And ministers, you check the Granger cabinet, the entire cabinet is not participating in this new outfit. The entire cabinet of David Granger is
One
not.
exception.
Which one is that?
Donald Vulcan joined Amanza Walton.
Yeah, but he is not participating in the PNC or the AFC. From the AFC side, you have two persons, I think. Three would be Raphael Trotman, Cathy Hughes, and Thing. But
Patterson.
And David Patterson. Well, Ramjatan, so four. So
I've been told Ramjatan is on the periphery.
Right. He is, and he said that much to us when we called him, that he is not in the center of the participation in this election.
I don't know. I hope Joe Harmon doesn't take objection to this. And I don't mean anything, Joe. Please don't hold it against me. When I called him, he said he's sitting this one out.
Oh, he did say that.
Yeah.
Right. So just imagine you have, well, Granger has declared that he will support the list. We're not just talking about supporting a list. Well, Granger is a former president. And you don't bring former presidents back into, unless they're extremely young, probably with an exception is Barrett Jagdeo. But you won't expect to see Granger, Ramatar, Sam Hines, and so on in the hot part of the campaign, so we are not going to include them. But do you understand the enormous power Joe Harmon had? You had Joe Harmon, you had Dominic Gaskin, Noel Holder. All of these people,
Just gone, man.
Just
You have
this is
you have
unprecedented.
the lady, what's her name? When she tried to take away the accreditation of the observers, she was a minister of foreign affairs coming on to the end of APNU.
Karen Cummins.
Right, she's gone. The former minister of education, what's her name?
Nicolette Henry.
You're not hearing about these people?
Yeah. I think Nicolette Henry is done with from long time, right? The only active person now, the exception that you should have mentioned was Valda Lawrence. I think she's still active in the PNC, still supporting Aubrey Norton, still participating, but beyond that, it's unprecedented.
But there's still some others. You don't hear about Rupert Marine.
Well, Rupert Marine is ill.
Jocelyn
right,
Dow, she was one of the biggest names in the WPA and in the APNU+AFC government. There's Clive Thomas. All he does, he writes on international economics in the Star book. Not a word about politics, not a word.
Right. And
Aubrey Wetmeyer, CEO for Sarah.
Right.
They just saw dozens and dozens of them are gone.
And that tells you something. It speaks to leadership that if you are leading a movement and you're not able to, touch with people and keep a relationship of some sort, it tells you something. But in my opinion, though, Granger has a lot of the blame to absorb. The biggest mistake Granger made that cost him both his government and precipitated this that is happening to
disintegration.
Right, to the PNC, is that Granger ran his government from the center. Like he was, it might not be safe to call him a one-man show, but he established, he spoke quite often of the power of the Constitution and his power, the Constitution and the Constitution. Even when the AFC was going to bargain again for the second time for the 2020 election, he spoke of the Constitution and in other words, the interpretation of that is that I have constitutional power limitless constitutional power, and I am going to exercise it in the course of my government and in the course of politics. So Granger had limited political meeting, at least not even one AFC versus APNU meeting, where Granger doesn't stand as the president necessarily. You come in to talk among parties, and I think that was completely absent. And so inside of the power structure, you end up having 3 tiers inside of the power structure. That's unprecedented also in our political system, where you had Granger and probably Harmon forming a close power structure of themselves, and people like Basil Williams and many others were on the outside of that structure. And what they end up having to do to bring their survival in politics alive was to be a kind of a one-man show on their own, like to be a kind of a star. So what you had in the APNU government were a lot of individual stars, people who assert themselves in their own right, their own strength, their own little niche. And so you had Basil being a strong man of his own, to show that, hey, as if to show, let me use those terms, as if to show that Harmon don't control me, Nagamutu the Prime Minister don't control me. David Patterson had his own sphere of influence, his own star boyish type of thing. And so you had these individual stars, a close-knit center, and then others existing on the periphery. In the PPP, you don't have that. They govern as a party, and they govern from Freedom House.
I think the PPP, I think the PPP has been historically and traditionally trained in a type of human behavior that the PNC, the WPA, especially the inheritors of the WPA of the 70s, and the AFC, never had the experience. These are people who came through the mosque and the temples. Now, in those closely knit villages, you know the mulvi, you know the pandit, right? And then they have the village fairs, where you would have the PPP executive mingling with the villagers. You see, in urban society, in the urban areas, those politicians, because the urban area is so wide and it's so much, the urban politicians lose that sense of identity with their people, because that is urban life, whereas the rural people are more knitted. So when the PPP people go into government, it's people who are well grounded in their community going into government, whereas these urban elites, they're very distant from the people. I mean, there's nobody who can speak better about that than Frederick Kissoon. I was very critical in the PPP, and those ministers would meet me, and you would think we're friends. And you ask Sam and say, man, this guy need a house lot. Sam would say, but yeah, Freddie, you meet these people, you ask them for favors. These APNU, AFC people wouldn't even say hi to you. Well, I went to visit you, the Ministry of National Security. You get it, Joe? This, you would believe this was a well-known, nationally known human rights activist that he's speaking to. But let's move on. I want to warn viewers about something that happened. This should be an eye-opener for you. I've been along a long time. I am telling you why often Ali is going to win the election, because the people opposing him are no good. I'm giving you now an example. And I'm saying to you, take this example and reflect on it. 3 parties yesterday hold a press conference to announce their merger. I can't remember
Yeah, they actually signed their agreement in front of the press.
One is Guyana, Forward Guyana by Amanda Walton Deserve.
Amanda
Walton Deserve. Some organization called V-PAC, VPAC, and another one by some wayside preacher. The guy says he's a preacher. I tell you what that guy said. What's his name?
I think his government thing is called People's Movement. The party is called People's
Movement. He's supposed to be a preacher.
Right. I think they call him apostle.
Apostle.
Right.
I tell you what that guy said about the elections and how the Americans, the Canadians, and the British rigged the elections for the PPP. They held this press conference, announced the merger, and said to the press, you can't see the document that we have agreed upon, and we are not taking questions. These are the people who tell the government they're not accountable. The government don't explain anything to people. They do their own thing. They're asking you for your votes. And for they go bravely in front of the cameras, in front of the media community, and say, shoot, so they can explain themselves. They can tell people how bad the PPP is, how good they are, and the things they are willing to do. They said no questions.
So they invited, I think I may have missed that, they invited the press,
the media,
and then they told the press no questions?
We're not
Seriously?
We're not, the thing is all over the news. We're not entertaining any questions. And I am asking the viewers, the thousands of Guyanese who will vote, learn the lesson of that incident. If these people are telling you the PPP is the worst thing, and they will get in and change this country, and they could tell the press, don't ask us any questions.
Yeah, but based on what I saw, they actually signed the document on a desk in front of the press.
And tell the people they can't see the document.
Okay.
You know why? You know why the PPP way ahead in front of them? Just one man. I'll give you an example. Christopher Lam. Christopher Lam criticizes the government every single day. If the government plant a mango tree, it's wrong. If the government gives people $50,000, it's wrong. And Christopher Lam, I am giving you these examples. Run with it, please, and let it decide how you're going to vote. Christopher Lam canceled his legal representation. He was a lawyer for Nascimento, and never informed Nascimento. And Nascimento wrote a letter two Saturdays ago saying, look what this man did. If these people get into government, what would they? This is Christopher Lam, who tell the man, I'm not being your lawyer anymore. I didn't call the man and say, look, I am now being accountable to you. I cannot continue. The man didn't know. And I am in my 70s, and I can tell you the horrible nature of people who criticize this government. They are not better than Afadani, no way. They're not better than many people in the PPP government. But you know why? You don't know these things. And you got a taste of it yesterday. They formed this thing and told the press, no, we're not taking any questions. Do you know these people have no self-confidence and no leadership qualities? Let us hope what we're going to reveal to you now, it will determine how you vote. Let us show you the people that you may want to vote for that don't have any leadership qualities. Nigel Hughes gets on the gets on the talk show podcast all the time with people who are sympathetic to the opposition. We invited Nigel Hughes twice over a 3-month period, including last week. Aubrey Norton, Priyamani Chan, you will see the interview, came and was batting for her government. Batting, criticized the opposition, said there's no opposition. She didn't say, I'll get back to you, no. That is leadership quality. She came for an hour and batted for her party and batted for the Ministry of Education. We can't get Aubrey Norton. We can't get Nigel Hughes, the General Secretary of the PNC. Sherwin Benjamin saying, I got to talk to my leader. We can't get none of them. And they're telling us the worst government in the world is the PPP. And they're not coming and showing the people they want to vote for them how this government is bad. I am saying to you, I am saying to the 28 parties, minus the PPP. I'm saying to the 27 parties, minus the PPP, whose leaders are prepared to come on the show. Those 27 parties, they have a platform in this show here. I am saying to the AFC, I am saying to the PNC, come and bat. Come and show the guy. Do you know the last program on this show had 44,000 viewers? Come and talk to 44,000 viewers why you think you should be elected. And don't be afraid that Freddie Kissoon and
but
we gonna kill you.
But Freddie,
we're gonna bite you.
Freddie,
we are so bright that we're gonna make you look like fools. You think we are so bright that you're afraid of us, Leonard?
But for the most part, Freddie, we ask softball questions here. We don't, you know, sometimes the decibels increase and we get a bit argumentative. But generally speaking, we are respectful of our guests, and but I want people to understand. A lot of people like to hate Donald Trump, but you understand why Donald Trump won?
The man,
because Donald Trump will call you today fake news, and then tomorrow, if the fake news station, CBS, NBC, all of them, he gives them an interview.
Well, you know what he did? He gave an interview to a journalist, that's the president of the United States, said, I never heard about you.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, normally, what a leader would say, oh, we could give you an interview. Who's he, man? He established himself.
Right. And
it's called leadership qualities.
And when you saying that, because I remember Ganesh Maipal accused us of saying that this is a PPP platform and it's a PPP program and so on, and he was on the program, and you were even allowed to come and tell us that because
and he was very critical of Jack Dio.
Yeah, and he batted well for his side.
Very critical of Finale. He said, I would ever go near those people or Finale
right.
to be berated and humiliated like how Ali humiliated his ministers.
Right.
He said this thing. So you can't get Aubrey Norton. The Aubrey Norton that I knew was brimming with self-confidence.
Right, but
we will go in Nigel's office and sit down. Let's talk, Nigel.
We want to reiterate that there is a platform here. This program, among all the other programs that are beaming out of Guyana, this program is the most popular. It gets the most views. And everybody who is anybody in politics watch this program. And
I want to cut you. I'm giving you a theory as to why they don't want to come, and I want to see your reaction. I am a genius. I am so phenomenally bright that when I'm done with them, they're not going to even get one vote. Leonard Craig is a brilliant man, has a good analytical mind, and Craig is waiting to pounce on them to destroy them. So we can't go on this program. If we go on this program, we're dead.
No, you see, the thing is...
Is that what they say?
I think they're actually saying that you have an opposition platform and leave the opposition people to themselves. But what they don't understand, their platform, apart from getting less viewers than ours, they are playing to a gallery they're already playing to a gallery that is converted. So they are not reaching additional, as Trump did, because, for example,
the former mayor bat all the time, this is my party. You're telling you I'm off on a slipway. The man come in and saying the PPP is this.
Right.
And Ubraj is that.
Right.
Listen, but Mark France came and said we believe we will get seats. When you see the numbers, that is what you have to. Mark France never said. Ubraj never said, no boy, I fighting for Freddie. When Freddie done with me, I lying on the floor. So Nigel, you think that we're gonna destroy him? Are we not so full of himself that you can't destroy him?
Yeah. Anyway, just as we move on to another thing, just to reiterate, they have a platform for every party that is contesting this election, whether as a group or not. Even though everybody in this country knows that Azruddin Mohammed got a feud with Critic, and this is a platform owned by Critic. And if Azruddin Mohammed wants to come, we go into his office and we're going to film him. If Freddie ain't going, I go in and film him.
I go in to film him, but that's my journalistic work.
That is the level to which we are willing to provide a platform for everybody that is running.
What I don't understand is they don't have.
And further, just before you continue, Critic, when we put this thing on, put Azruddin on Critic platform, Critic can't say no. He could, but he can't say no.
But he's infringing in the independence of the show.
Right, exactly.
I'm not too sure I would be happy with that.
Right.
But what I don't understand about these people, and you have to expose them, is that when you enter politics, when you ask in for people to vote for you to run the richest Caribbean country, you have an obligation to speak to people and explain to them why they must vote for you. But you also have an obligation to your supporters, to tell your supporters what the PPP is made of. So you don't have to worry with Freddie Kissoon and Leonard Craig. Come on the program and say, Freddie, you're talking nonsense. You know the things David I told me in this program? I'm like a parrot. My Wester said, no, you know what Darren Wade did? He jumped up and said, well, listen, I am the guest, you're the host, but like the roles and reverse. Like you want to take over the show, like the guest in here. So why you think Freddie Kissoon is so good that you're hiding from your supporters, but you're also hiding from the PPP supporters you should address.
Yeah.
Is the PPP.
Yeah.
I'm speaking out to all the opposition parties, the 27 that have registered with GCOM. Do you believe the PPP is corrupt? Do you believe the PPP is not accountable? Do you believe the PPP is full of patriotism, patronage, incestuousness? Do you believe the PPP is discriminating against other communities? If you believe that, come like Ubraj Narain, come like Kian Jabul, and show the PPP voters that you have the evidence, and you appeal to them based on what you're saying, and you may get their votes. But if you hide under your own party platform, you're not converting PPP people. Trust me, often Ali going anywhere and bat for his presidency. He's going to go on Sherwood Duncan program. I invited Sherwood Duncan so many times. I met him a month ago.
Freddie,
National Park.
if Sheridan invite me, I go in on this program.
I go in anywhere anybody invite me.
You understand? So I don't concern about who own the platform and how they feel about me and all of that. You know, these two things are separate. Really, really
But
separate.
you and me, going on other people's platform where they can argue with us or confront us, we are asking for people vote to be the president.
No, right.
Amanza Walton want to be the president, APNU+AFC want to be the president, Nigel Hughes want to be the president. This man who formed this thing with Amanza Walton, the preacher, he want to be the president. Corbin Best, is that his name, or Darwin Best?
Darwin Best is VPAC.
He want to be the president. Oh, how you could want to be the president? You're afraid of Freddie Kissoon?
No, I think they believe that their platform is sufficient, and they probably believe that they, you know, when you see under their own program, they are playing to a gallery, a converted gallery, and you have these nice things. You have these nice things being said, and they don't want to come to a place like Alexander to say, hey, I'm not subjecting myself to these comments.
Alexander,
you know.
that asinine,
right?
asinine, idiotic, moronic.
Don't say that of our guests.
He holds an obligation to say he can't come on the Freddie Kissoon show because when he see the views, how could we be responsible for that? How could Alexander hold a taxi man responsible for when he stopped at the traffic light? Somebody in the car said, Alexander, you're a fool. See, tell the taxi man, I come in your taxi for that. How you could, but most of all, how you could live your life running from interviews because of what people say about you. Vincent Alexander said that to me, and I wrote a column about it. Me subjecting myself to them comments. And every day people call him Freddie a madman, and he's this and he's that.
Yeah, and though a guy like David Hines got thoughts that we don't agree with.
David, you come and abuse of Freddie.
Yeah, and I often give him that respect, right? Because if he was in Guyana and you say, hey, come on the program, he will.
Hear what David Hines come on the program and said. I don't believe an Indian person should comment on black people. He said clear, what Gita Chandan commenting about what the black lady say, Indian people should not do that. You know what he said? I want black people to hear what I am saying. He knows when he come on the program, right? He's addressing black people.
Right.
So you know, and you could.
This week, Freddie, AFC continue to lose more of its members. And I think two of the most senior youth leaders in the AFC have left. And word is that they are already active with the PNC. And again, here's the PNC eating up, you know, eating up the AFC, literally.
They got two big names that make the news. No, it's not in the news.
And who?
The organizing secretary for ANUG and the financial secretary have resigned.
And who?
They just resigned. I don't think they.
Like that happened today.
That happened day before yesterday, and it's not in the news. ANUG.
Oh really? I didn't think, because when we had that interview with Dr. France,
he never said that.
He said that his entire executive negotiated the.
But I don't know if the two people that have resigned after they were part of that decision. But one is the Javed Ali, the organizing secretary. He belongs to the Monroe Mosque. I think he's a big name in the mosque there. And the financial secretary, I can't remember his name.
Ah, well.
I tried to get Ali at the phone.
I am still baffled as to why
people are just leaving, man.
Why ANUG would make such a decision to just lose their identity and just subsume their party.
Your understanding.
And then on top of that, they said Mohammed has complete control over the list, complete control over who is selected. How is that a collaboration even? Even if you want to mix terms and try to confuse us, how is that even a collaboration?
But I'm surprised that fans could say those things and not knowing people could say, man, get out of here, man, you're a fool. He was doing all right before this. You going into the election. Why can't you have win/A? You have PPP/civic.
Right.
You have PNC reform. Now it's APNU. The man has just collapsed. And win. So win has won because they've got rid of ANU.
Right, basically. Something that struck me also.
A well-known medical doctor subsumed himself under some playboy.
It's mind blowing. It's mind blowing. The other thing that struck me is when Forward Guyana was launched, the question was asked of Amanza Walton. Do you think you can merge with? And she didn't dismiss the Mohammed, merging with the Mohammeds. And she didn't dismiss it at all. She said, we will look at like-minded people, and that one got me, because I would have thought that a person with integrity would have right off the bat say, look, you know, and that is why in our last interview with Dr. France, my last question just before we wrap up was how much confidence you have in the integrity of the information used to sanction the Mohammeds. Do you think there is actually something there?
He said,
and if you think,
he said,
and unless you think, and unless he talk about legal something and Guyana law and something, and if you're not in Guyana.
No, he answered in a more banal way. But if that is the information out there, something like that.
Right. And I am saying that if we believe that the U.S. information got some amount of, when we were small, we used to talk about the bottom of you don't know how deep is a trench, you go in and swim, and you send somebody down and say, see if you find sounding, right? I don't know if you used to use the term.
This country thing.
Right. You see if you find sounding mean if you could touch the bottom. And sometimes somebody go down and they can't go down anymore, say, bye, me finding no sounding. Do you believe it got any sounding at all in the information used? And if you believe there's any truth to it or any credibility to the information, you got dismissed that immediately. And I would understand why a person like Ramkaran and Jonas and so on would immediately tender their resignation if they believe they cannot persuade their party otherwise. Because, you know, and for that is one thing that got me with respect to Walton. Then if we look ahead to the election, I don't believe it. In the past, when you said the AFC is done with, and I always defended the AFC by saying, look, from what I know, AFC still has a structure. But these recent resignations, and based on the information I'm getting from people even in the regions who were supposed to be activists for the AFC, the information I'm getting is that some of these people are leaving, and who are not leaving are saying they're not working.
But you did not mention the peculiar one. He didn't leave, but he didn't see Nigel as presidential material. There's a guy that has been working in Nigel's chambers for a long time named Ronald Daniels. He has joined the APNU campaign. So he's saying clearly, with pellucid forcefulness, Norton has my support as presidential candidate than Nigel Hughes. He said it clearly. Doesn't say much for Nigel there.
So if you ask me, I would say if I were in the AFC, I would tell them to save face. AFC should either, they have the Brooms Party, ALP, I think, has not yet merged with anybody. The AFC has that option.
They merge with Amanza.
Right. Or they can merge with Amanza, and losing their name is not a big thing. The PNC lost its name in APNU, and so on. So losing your name to a group called Forward Guyana, Forward Guyana was formed before you joined it. AFC should have been instrumental in forming that the name change, but to go after the name is changed is a little coming down a peg, but the AFC has to do that than to be embarrassed completely in the election.
We asked Leonard.
So now I am changing my outlook on the AFC to say that the AFC is a spent force.
You see?
I am going with the times.
Still got some support.
No, Freddie, stop. I am going with the times, and based on the extant situation, and based on the situation in the AFC now, I have gotten my information. I have inquired from some people in the regions, and it doesn't look good at all. It doesn't look good at all.
We didn't mention that you called Simona Booms. I called Simona Booms. No. I'm ready. I think she told me she ain't ready yet.
She said she will, what she told me is that she will come after nomination day. And again, Simona Brooms just won a court case against Guyanese Critic, and this is Critic's platform. But Critic
we don't
does not have editorial control over us. And
I mean, in fairness to Critic, she can't use the platform to abuse him, because we wouldn't tolerate that with anybody.
Right.
We wouldn't tolerate that with anybody. But Simona Booms is no show. And at Fox.
No, well, I wouldn't be ready to say that, because she said after nomination, she said a lot of things can happen, and after nomination day I'll come.
Well, David Patterson said he would be in touch with us this week. Today is Wednesday. He hasn't called us yet. So David Patterson said he's going to come, but we have to get back to him. So we have to wait on that. Annette Ferguson gave me all kinds of excuses.
But she is one of the persons that is very quiet, or she is active. She write
letters. She has a letter last week.
No. When I say quiet on in the PNC, as a activist and as a what you're hearing anything about her?
No. But I don't think I think she's on her way out. But do you know there's something I'm telling the PPP? If any PPP supporter, member, or leader is looking at this program, I'm going to give you something that you can use against the PNC, in the words of Annette Ferguson, who's currently in the PNC, parliamentarian. She ran to be chairman of the Georgetown PNC. And some skullduggery occurred there, and she said, can the PNC ever hold a free and fair election? She's in the press to say that. Just Google it. Annette Ferguson of the PNC says Georgetown election for PNC chairman was not free and fair. So these people have an intrinsic instinct of wicked things. So I don't know how Annette what's going to happen to Annette Ferguson. But I want to tell you, we've got a couple of minutes left. I want to tell you what this guy said from that man who's a preacher. What's his name? They call him the Apostle?
Yeah, Apostle London.
Apostle London said that I can't remember all the words he said. It amount to him being ashamed to be a Guyanese or something like that. But if he didn't say that, I apologize. But he did say that the neo-colonials have arranged the election for Guyana, for the PPP. He was speaking on the same platform.
The 2020 election?
Yeah, he was speaking on the same platform with Nigel Westwood. So when he said the neo-colonial arranged the election for the PPP, Dr. Nigel Westwood agreed. Now, if he said that, and I heard him saying that, I saw him saying that, then it means it's Canada, the EU, Britain, and United States arrange this election for. He has to answer that and explain that more. Now that these people are contesting the election, they have to answer questions. Here is my question to Amanza Walton Deserve. No, two questions. She said on the Freddie Kissoon show last year that Baba Jagdeo, she has the video of Baba Jagdeo promising Maduro a sea lane to solve the border controversy. Can she produce that? The second thing is she said on more than one occasion that Adriana Young was brutally murdered. Can she explain that, how the murder occurred, what form the brutalization took? These people cannot jump and ask you to vote for them and not want to explain things to people. You know that guy Mahipal would come here and explain how he think Amanza, how he think Adrian Young was brutally murdered.
We got about 3 minutes more, but there was something I wanted to deal with that we might probably have to wait until the next time we have a conversation.
The next dialogue.
The vice president of the PPP, the vice president of Guyana and the general secretary of the PPP did mention, even though I watched the press conference, here what I do when his press conference is on, I turn up my phone or TV, whatever, gadget I'm next to at the time, and I would be doing other things. And I probably missed this part, and I only learned of it this morning when somebody asked me a question concerning it. He mentioned me by name, and he said, because I had to go back and watch it, and I only watched it this morning. And it's something I want to respond to and want to explain in detail, so the next time we meet up, I want a good chunk of time, a good 10 minutes to speak on it. He mentioned me in the context that you didn't hear how Craig explained, because they asked him, how come you're accepting these people in the party and they participated in the rigging of the election, and you're prosecuting these other people? And he used my name and mentioned about my explanation about how the party worked that led, or some aspect of rigging. I want to address that frontally. When somebody at the level of the vice president raised those things without formally or extensively explaining, then I think I need to do that. Even though it was 2 press conferences ago, I was not, even though I listened to the press conference, sometimes you go on a different part of the house for that half a minute and you miss that when you came back. So I would want to address that.
Okay, we have to conclude now. I'd like to remind you that there is this thing going around now about the Guyana government sanctioning Mohammed. The Guyana government did not sanction Mohammed. I don't know why Mohammed is going around saying that. I want to close now because the operator signal will be just about to close. There are millions of people in big countries that the Americans have their eyes on. Why would the Americans pick on the Mohammed family? Because I think there's more in the martyr than in the prison.
Yeah.
I think the United States is taking its time and gathering information, and there's going to be a big bombshell about Azawuddin.
And based on what
All of
already know.
the powerful billionaires around the world. This guy, the United States singled out Muhammad in an unknown country named Guyana.
Yeah, and based on
So
what we
something-
already know, his reach was far in the Middle East, in Africa, based on what we already know from what is released by the US.
Surely you can be serious voting for Azzuddin Mohammed. We gotta go. Whatever's left of Wednesday evening, please enjoy it. We have a very interesting guest on Friday. You need to see and listen to that guest. Thanks for being with us. On behalf of Leonard Craig, we will see you on Friday. Catch you later. Bye-bye.